This is the Flock Audio Patch LT version, and this is something, a new concept for studio environment. Let's talk about together. I've seen Flock Audio for the first time at NAMM show and I fell in love immediately. I've decided to purchase one unit. There are different units. This is the smallest one. You have 16 input and 16 outputs, but let's go in order. What is a Flock Audio patch? Well, basically this is a patch bay and it's digital patch bay. So this will replace your mechanical patch bay. You will no more use any cable, detach cable, go from this hardware, go to this hardware, and then from the output of this hardware, another cable to another. You don't have to think about all the routing, no more time lost to patch all your gear. You can do everything with a snap of a finger with this Flock Audio patch. So basically this is a patch bay. It's a digital patch bay because there is some DSP, some brain inside that will manage everything of your analog gear, but all the routing, so all the signal will be pure analog. So keep in mind this. The only digital stuff is basically the brain inside that decide how to connect everything and how to split the signal. But all the connection are analog, so all the gear will receive pure analog connection, okay? And I mainly decided to purchase a patch, Flock Audio patch unit. One is to connect every of my outboard gear one time, so all should be connected to the patch bay, and then with a software I can create my routing and all will be recorded fastly and all the signal will be analog. So no more use of any cable, any mess with the cable in your studio. And the second reason is that now with this Flock Audio patch you can create some weird routing, some also parallel routing with a snap of a finger, and all will be in analog way. So normally when you send signal to an outboard, then you have to return again to your audio interface. So you make conversion of digital to analog and again analog to digital. Then you want to use another stuff, you again do this kind of conversion. With this you can create really strange and complicated routing. Again, parallel, you can divide some routing in all analog way without making any conversion multiple times. So this is great to save time, of course, but also to preserve your analog signal. So let's see the hardware part of this patch bay. So as you can see, the frontal panel is pretty simple. You have basically only the on and off, and a blue light will light up, and then you have a front connection. Front connection can vary depending on the version that you want to purchase. This is the smallest version and I've only one frontal connection, and this is really handy to have frontal connection because basically when in my YouTube channel basically I've received a lot of stuff, a lot of gear to try out, and I don't want to disengage maybe some other outboard that I already have. I don't want to disconnect something and reconnect, but I can use frontal, for example, for a mono source. This is only for mono source because it's the input 16 and the output 16. So when you use frontal, you basically will bypass the rear connection only for the 16, okay? All the other will stay connected. But this is really handy to maybe try something on the fly, or if you receive something from the client that want to use in a recording, you can plug here. And that's it. It's basically you have nothing from the front, but the magic happens here. Here, as you can see, you have all the DB25 connection, also called the Tascam connection. This was a pain in the ass, basically, at the beginning, because I had to purchase cables to connect everything. The first time to connect everything of your analog gear, for me, was really frustrating, because you have to connect everything with this cable. These cables are really expensive, and I know this gear is not cheap. Are really expensive, so basically it's like purchasing a new outboard gear. I know it's really expensive, but for me it's a really plus in the studio because you can really save time, make all the routing really fast. So talking about all the connection, basically you have input and output, and input and output. So from 1 to 8 and from 9 to 16. Basically, all the inputs that you have here must go to the output of your audio interface and of your outboard gear. All the outputs must go to the inputs, so keep in mind this routing. Then you have the connection of the USB, because you have to manage all with a software. So let's move now to the software and let's see how the Flock Audio Patch works. Alright guys, so the Flock Audio Patch LT is connected with all my gear. So now what you have to do is to open the software, and it's called Patch App here. So when you open it for the first time, you can see a lot of paths that you can create, but you have firstly import your hardware, and you have to tell basically to the Patch App how all your outboard are connected basically. So you have to go here to hardware. You can connect it, and as you can see, you have 16 different outboards, so 16 different inputs and outputs that you can connect, because I purchased the Flock Audio Patch LT. So basically, is the little brother of all the Patchbays, or sister, as you want to call it. Basically, here you have to say per each kind of outboard gear that you have, where you have connected. So let's make an example. This is my Schwarzkopf machine, and this is connected to the 5 and 6. So 5 input, 6 input, 5 output, and 6 output, because this is a stereo unit. So let's say here, this is the Schwarzkopf machine, so this is the SKT, for example, and this is my input 1, for example. As you can see, there is a block, so it's writing also in input and output. I can do that if I want, or if you don't want, you can also detach this, and you can also write, for example, this is the output, because pay attention on the input side. So this is all the inputs. The inputs have been connected to your outputs of the gear. So you have to keep in mind this. So here you have to write all the outputs. So this is my SKT output 1, and this is my SKT input 1. While here I have my second input, SK2, for example, out 2, and again has been, this has to be detached, SK2 in 2. So, and so on and so forth. For example, now I have here my 500 series. The 500 series have been connected, I don't know, for my 12. So here I have my pop audio, and this is my pop audio. Now, this can be also written in this way, because this is mono, so input and output has been created automatically, so I don't have to detach this, for example. So, and in this way, you can populate basically all the slots that you have. And then you have here the 48-volt allow, so you can also decide in which kind of outboard you want the 48 volts. For example, here I have a preamps, the 𝙎𝙬𝙢 and the Neve LB, and of course here I want the 48 volts, so I can allow the 48 volts only in that particular routing. So this is great. It's something that you cannot do in a normal mechanical patch base. So this is very important to me. So for example, I do not allow the 48 volts here, because I don't need, and maybe can damage or not, I don't know, my outboard gear, but I can stay safe in this way. And this is a great idea from Flock Audio. So this is the stock plugin that you can receive, the stock software that you can receive when you purchase the Flock Audio, and this is for free. So with your purchase you will receive this. As you can see, you can also engage, for example, the front inputs, and it's telling me that the rear inputs will be overwrite. So basically, when I engage this, for example, I can connect something on the fly that I have here. Maybe when I try out gear in my YouTube channel. So this YouTube channel is not only for mixing and mastering services, but also to try out and to letting you see new stuff, for example. When I have to try out something, I don't have to recable everything from the rear, it's really handy to have this connection on the front. And for example, when I engage this, the 16 position on the back will be replaced. So what I have connected on the back will no more be connected, for example, and the signal will be sent to the front input and output. So this is really handy, but for now, let me disengage this. So you can mute all on the fly if you have some problem, if you have some feedback, I don't know, you can clear all paths. You can decide also here on settings, basically setting to software update, firmware update. You can create some quick strip setup. So basically you can create some sort of slots, routing your signal path. Yeah, you can recall it, but I want to let you see in a moment. So now this is the main software, but I want to show you all with an upgraded software. So as you can see here, you can try out for 14 days. So as you can see, this is the same app, but it's the upgraded version. So this is the Patch app DX. As you can see, it's written here, DX. Basically is the same idea, same kind of application. You can do all the basic stuff that you can do with the other app, but this is, as you can see, is colored. So first thing is color, and it's really handy to have colored for all my gear that I have available here. So on the eye, I can see immediately which kind of analog gear I want to use. So this is great, but you can also use this with your iPad. Let me show you. So as you can see here, I have the iPad version. It will connect immediately with the application. This application for the iPad is really limited in my opinion, because basically you can only recall some sort of routings that you have decided to make in the desktop application. So basically, so when you create a routing normally with normal Patchbay, you have to go out from your audio interface, go to some outboard, and then again return to your audio interface. My audio interface is the Antelope Orion, and as you can see, I've placed, for example, the 7 and 8 my output for stereo, but I can also use only mono. Now, as you can see, has been paired this one, so I can press the shift, and now all the stereo become mono, so I can also use on the fly mono if I want. But first of all, you have to write all your analog gear. How to do that? Well, you have to go here on the hardware, and as you can see, you have to populate all this form. You can decide also to pair something. As you can see here, this is my Schwerkraft machine, which is this one. This is a compressor, and it's stereo, so I decide to pair the left and right when I use it. And the same for the Empress, which is an equalizer. It's a tube equalizer, stereo, and again, this is paired. But you can also unpair this, as you've seen here, using the shift, okay? It's really, really easy. Here you can create your routing. You can decide, I go out from my 7 and 8, for example, then I can go to my Schwerkraft machine, which is this one, and then again go back to my input of my Orion. This is my routing. Without touching any cable, I've created this stereo routing. Without also thinking about I'm in normalized mode, I have an half normalized Patchbay, or I'm using the isolated Patchbay, or some of the module of my Patchbays, mechanical Patchbays, are in half normalized, normalized, isolated. So no more all these thoughts. You can avoid to create some feedbacks, because sometimes I've created some feedbacks with the mechanical Patchbay. In this way, it's all under control. And now I can go, for example, to my Studio One section, for example, and I can use my pipeline stereo. This is basically a plugin to put in communication all the outboard gear with your DAW. I can go to automatic, and as you can see, it's moving, because now if I press play, it's working my compressor. Bypass, engage. I can change whatever I want, also the mods here. So it's really fast, really easy. For example, let's go again back to this, and let's say I want to use no more this one, but maybe, let's say I want to create a mono routing, okay? So let's put this here, shift, and I'm using only the Orion 7. Then I want to go, for example, to my stretch audio. Okay, then to the pop audio backs here, And then from here I want to jump and go to my Empress, but using only the mono side of this stereo. So again, shift and use only the left, for example, here. And again, I'm going back to the Orion. This is the routing without touching any cable, without thinking too much. Really easy, really fast. You can save time and you can save any frustration. So let's go again to the Studio One. And here, for example, I want to go to the snare from the output 7 again to the input 7. Okay, let me check. No, there is an error here. I want the 7. Let's check. I'm receiving and I'm sending perfectly. So now let's listen only the snare, for example. Okay, now I can use my backs, clarity, let's bypass the EQ, the stretch, with some filters, I don't know, I can do whatever I want. Okay, so bypassed. I created some very random kind of mix, okay? But this is really, really handy. So the same that I'm doing here, you can do the same with the previous app, with the basic stuff, okay? Let's now create some more complicated routing. For example, I want to go from here, I want to create a parallel routing. And I can go, for example, to my Schwerkraft machine from here. So I can create this arrow, and in the middle of this routing, I'm creating this parallel routing, for example. And from here, I can go, for example, to the retro, which is here behind my retro 176, which is not, I've reviewed that. So if you want to see that, you have the link in the corner. Let's say from here, let's go again back to the Orion input 8. Okay, so I am creating these things, and it's really, really easy to do that, and really complicated maybe to do on a mechanical patch bay, because maybe some modules to do that you have to have in half normalization or full normalization, and so you have to keep in mind this. Here instead you have only to click, drag, drop, and it's done. Now I want to show you with the iPad. Basically you can recall everything. So for example, I've created a mastering routing, and here as you can see there is written mastering. I can click and it's recalling basically the routing which my Schwerkraft machine and the Empress. I can do the same. As you can see, mastering now is emphasized. So for example, I want to use only my 500 series mix, recalled. Really easy, without touching everything. With a snap of a finger, as you can see, is recalling. It's really, really amazing. And when I use, for example, the mastering, I can see here there is analog recalls, but I can also go here, is the same. It's only very handy to have here because you can close, for example, this window, and while you are working, you can recall everything from here. Okay, it's really handy to have this. So for example, here on the mastering, I can go to analog recall, and as you can see, I'm recalling the photo that I've made from my gear to see exactly the same. So for example, if I go again to 500 series, here I can go to analog recalls, and as you can see, there is a picture of my 500 series. Really, really easy. And as you can see here, you can write some session notes. So this is for snare, brightening up a bit and compressing. So I really like the Flock environment, and all my analog gear now are connected to the Flock, and the Flock is basically the brain that is now sending signal, and you can control everything with the Patch app. So guys, you have the link in the description to check all the audio gear from Flock Audio. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this environment. And of course, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.